Is it that time? Is it already Thursday? Huh. Is it already February? How the hell did that happen? It's like it was just Thanksgiving. It was just Thanksgiving a few days ago, it seems like. And now all of a sudden, we're in February. Isn't that what it's all about, though? Doesn't that time always go like that? In fact, it's very interesting. You hear people talking about having midlife crises, and that starts at whatever age, right? Usually in 50s. But then when you look at the average age of a person in this country, let's just say that it's 78. Well, half of 78 is 39. So really, your midlife crisis would be at 39. And then if you take the factor of how we view time as we get older, and it seems to go faster, really, our midlife crisis would be in our early 20s. Now, isn't that something to chew on as we digest this week and figure out what's going on, huh? Thought that'd be an interesting way to start the show. So we are going to begin with a quote. I am here kind of by myself. You see a very interesting guest over here, but we'll introduce him in a moment. Okay. Kat, thank you for joining. Hey, I so appreciate Evezer being on, and thank you all of the LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram fans. I so appreciate you. So let's get going because I'm only going to be on a half hour today as I don't have a live guest next to me. So let's get going. Today's quote is, "It is better to regret something that you have done than to regret something that you haven't." And on that note, welcome to this episode of Live Beyond Default Livestream. It's your weekly dose of personal growth. My name is Dave, and this is my guest, Bone Man. And today we are live from the loft in downtown Arlington Heights. Episode 81. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, and of course, we're on YouTube. You could check out the replay on all those platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like, share, comment, agree, disagree. We're all about living beyond default here. So people have been asking me lately about that question, like, what does living beyond default mean? And yeah, I'd like to share a little bit about that. It really means living a life of design versus living a life of regret. It means living a life of abundance and believing in abundance versus scarcity, that there's not enough in the world. It's collaboration over competition. It's waking up, showing up, and doing your best every single day. And it's also fully expressing yourself, which is super important because we get so many fingers pointed at us, or we feel weird if we fully express ourselves, and then we kind of hold back who we truly are, whether it's in a relationship with a guy or a girl, or maybe it's with our clients, or maybe it's with our family or our boss or in our career. It's like so often we have to just kind of hold ourselves back and really be an alter ego many times. So we're all about fully expressing ourselves. We're all about making mistakes, failing forward, wiping off our knees, getting back up again, and making the best of our lives. So let's talk about regret today and what it is and why it makes us better. And we're going to share some stories. And I'm going to challenge and say that regret is actually good. And instead of the title being No Regrets, Bone Man, maybe the title should be No Regrets with a question mark. So I've been reading this book here called The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink. And if anybody knows who Daniel Pink is, throw it in the comments, because this guy is an awesome author. He has like 3 or 4 other books, A Whole New Mind, Very, very good. I love the fact about the right brain and the left brain. He had a book out decades ago that said how the world is shifting from one side of the brain to the next side of the brain, which we saw. He is just awesome. So check him out, Daniel Pink. He actually went to Northwestern University. Do we have any Wildcats out there listening or watching? But he talks a little bit about the definition of regret. And I thought that this would be an awesome place to start. So it's the unpleasant feeling associated with some action or inaction that a person has taken, which has led to a state of affairs that he or she wishes were different. Does that sound familiar? It's created by a comparison between the actual outcome and the outcome that would have occurred had the decision been made a different choice. It's a feeling of unpleasant association with the thought of the past, together with the identification of an object or the announcement of an inclination to believe a certain way in the future. So it gets a little technical in there, but you feel bad about something you did, or you feel bad about something that you didn't do, and you dream and you conjure up what it would have been like if you did or didn't do this something in the past, and you wonder where you'd be today. So how many of us regret things? We all do. And I think that that's something that we really want to challenge ourselves to live beyond default and think about. Forget about this whole no regrets thing. No regrets. You see people with tattoos, no regrets. And how many times those tattoos are even spelled wrong? Like, that wasn't a regret, right? Not that there's anything wrong with ink. In fact, I think it's super cool when people have ink. But think about it, right? Like, we all have regrets. So that's where I want us all to self-reflect today, whether you're listening to this live or you're watching the replay. Think about the regrets that you have. Maybe they are around your education. Maybe they're around your fitness. Maybe they're around a relationship that you had. Maybe they're around your finances. Maybe it's around career choices or non-choices. It could be so many things, but I'm going to show you some ways that we can actually use regret as fuel. And of course, we're going to share some stories too. Kat, I appreciate you being on here. Good morning. Yeah. Hey, Bone Man. So Bone Man here, I got a long time ago in Cabo San Lucas back in the day. And he's stuck with me ever since. And he's here for a reason, because we want to think about today a little bit of when we're on our deathbed. And we want to think about, like, are we going to be happy with the decisions that we made when we're looking back? Or are we going to regret those decisions that we did or didn't do? Because at that time, it's way too late. So I like to use Bone Man as a reminder to me and as fuel that, you know what? One day I'm going to die. And how am I going to feel on my deathbed? Am I going to be happy with all the things I did? Or am I going to be upset and say, I should have done this, I could have done this, I would have done this, right? So that's where we really want to dive in today. So Kat says, so crazy how life can shift or change just by one decision you may or may not have done. Yeah, think about that. Like, one little, thanks, Kat. Think about one little decision that you made. For me, over 10 years ago, it was deciding to stop drinking for 30 days, and it completely changed my life. I had no idea that it was going to last this long or what was going to happen, but maybe it could be a decision that you were going to meet up with someone, or that you were going to go say hi to somebody, or that you were going to maybe take a job offer, or decide to go to a networking event. Yeah, so there's so many little decisions that could change things in our life. Alan Stern, thanks for joining us. Yes, Alan, the skeleton, his name is Bone Man. So you get that right, okay? Oh, and Alan, I think he needs a microsite too. So let's start working on that one later on today. So regrets. Let's think about them a little bit, but let's recognize also that we don't have to have no regrets. In fact, regrets make us human, and they make us better in many, many ways. And we can actually use regrets as a fuel for what we want to do in the future, because all we have is the present. All we have is today. But we can make a change and a shift anywhere that we want in our life. And we don't have to be broken to do it. We don't have to be wrong about anything. That's not what living beyond default is. Living beyond default is really just being self-reflective, because that's what growth-minded people do. We're self-reflective. We're honest with ourselves. We call each other out on our bullshit. And we're going to keep doing that today. Alan says that's a great pattern interrupt. Yes. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. Frank says, good morning. Yeah, Frank, thanks for joining us on the show today. I am going to throw a link in the chat here that if anybody who's on right now wants to actually hop in on the screen live with me, you click that link, you could hop on and say something about regret, or ask me a question, or share a story. Anybody who's on LinkedIn, I did put that link in the comments of this show. So, okay, how does regret make us better, and how does it make us human? Well, because of this brain that we have and that this guy had one day, Mr. Bone Man, we have the ability to do so many different things. And one of those abilities is we have the ability to look back at a decision or an indecision that we made and actually conjure up a change in what the scenario coulda, shoulda, woulda been if we would have done something differently. And then what would have gone on today and the feeling that we might have because of it. Although we usually just get up in our heads and kind of spin out, and it's like, not the best feeling. But either way, yeah. And I want to ask that question too. The quote was, it's better to regret something that you have done than to regret something that you haven't done. And if somebody has a comment about that, I would love to hear it, because people have challenged me on that one a lot too. And I think 98% of the time, it truly is better to regret something that you have done than to regret something that you haven't done. So here's something that's really interesting about regret that came up in this book, The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink, which I've been jamming on. Take a look at athletes in the Olympics. You've got the first place, the second place, and the third place. Now, the first place, they have the world in their hands. They're feeling the greatest. We know that. We see it in their face. But now, it's funny, because the third place person is usually happier than the second place person. The third place person is usually happier than the second place person. Why is that? I've been studying that now ever since I learned that. And the difference is because the third place person in their mind is saying at least, okay? Jot this one down. At least I got a medal. At least I did a lot better than the last race. At least I did a lot better than I thought I would. But the second place person is saying, if only, right? If only. I love when those balloons pop up, right? And the thumbs up and all these things. But if only is what the second place person is saying. So think about that now. If only I would have trained a little bit harder. If only I would have practiced that speech more, right? We're relating it to our lives now. If only I would have read more to my kid. If only I would have said no when somebody wanted something. If only I would have set that boundary when my significant other was crossing the line. If only I would have said no to that job or to what my boss said. Yeah, so that's the difference between third and second place. The third says, at least. The second place person says, if only. So let's think about that one as we're listening and watching to Live Beyond Default LiveStream Episode 81. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Instagram, thank you so much. Or maybe you're watching the replay on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So we've got a lot more good comments here. Frank says, regrets in the proper can teach us invaluable lessons for future decisions. And Frank, that is a great way to sum it up. It's simply put and very profound. Regrets in the proper use can teach us invaluable lessons for future decisions. And that's really what it's all about. Instead of saying we have no regrets, the idea is let's embrace those regrets. Let's give those regrets a thumbs up, right? Let's give those regrets a woohoo, and let's shake our hands to those regrets and say, you know what? I messed up. It's okay though. And use it as fuel, like Frank said. Kat says, it's a little like crazy things you do in your teenage years and young adult years. You look back and think, wow, I was crazy, but you're actually excited, happy, and proud to tell that story because you lived. Yes, Kat, boom. That was awesome what you just said right there, because what happens in that scenario, what Kat just said there, when you look at how crazy you were, maybe you did some things back in the day when you were a teenager or in your 20s, you did some wild and crazy things and you look back, but then you're actually excited and happy and proud to tell that story because you lived. Bam, which brings up the point that regret can deepen meaning. Regret can actually deepen meaning in your life as you look and embrace of who you really are and maybe who you were and what you've changed. So I want to share a little bit, just a little story here about how regret really can make us better, right? So in the first instance, we can improve our decisions from regret, which is what Frank said. And actually feeling bad about a decision that we made can actually help improve the decisions in the future. Frank made that clear. So think about this. I remember still to this day living in Rolling Meadows right off of Kirchhoff Road. And I remember I had a snake, like a rubber snake that I won from a carnival or something, whatever it was. And this dude had an ice cream cone and I wanted some ice cream. And he asked me if I wanted a lick. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, how about I'll give you a lick or a bite and you trade it for the snake. And I said, okay. So I took a bite of the ice cream and he took the snake. And it was like, I was crying. They laughed. I think they were a little bit older. They left. They walked away. I went home, ran home. My mom's like, what happened? What happened? And I explained the story and she's like, yeah, you made a deal. You had to give him the snake. That's what happens. And I'm like, no. And I wanted it back. And I cried for hours. And my mom was just like, nope, this is what it is. You made a deal, Dave. You've got to stick by that deal. And still to this day, guys, I was probably 5 or 6. I moved out of Rolling Meadows when I was 7. So I was like 5 or 6. That time, the crying and even standing on the sidewalk. And I don't remember what the kid looked like, but I remember the feeling so vividly and regretting that decision that I made. I call it the snake story. What's your snake story? Think about that. Jot it down on paper. Do a little self-reflection. You know, I'm going to take a sip of my bulletproof coffee. Jimmy, good morning, and thanks for hopping on Facebook. And yeah, Bone Man's with me today. So as a reminder, Bone Man is with me because we want to think about that time when we're on our deathbed, and are we going to be looking back? Are we going to be proud of the decisions we made? Did we live beyond default through the roaring 20s? Or did we just derp on social media and goof off and not do shit for this decade as the world turns into chips and autonomous cars and living on other planets and who knows what happens. Something to think about, right? Yeah, I love this. Thank you for all the comments. I so appreciate that. Okay, so regret makes us better because we can improve our decisions. Another reason why regret makes us better is because it'll help us boost performance. And when we say boost performance, it's providing the fuel. That setback provides the fuel. And that near miss of whatever we wanted or we thought, it prompts that regret. It gives us quick reflection. We pivot and our performance improves. And I can think about so many ways in my life that happened. Whether it's in my real estate career, because real estate, I'm learning every single day, every single encounter that I have, every single piece of marketing material or social media post. But most importantly, every single time I'm sitting with a seller client when I'm listing their home and listening to the reasons why they want to sell and challenging them in ways that'll be better for them and getting them to getting us to both collaborate and be on the same page. And recently, I lost a listing, and it was a close to $1 million listing. And I was at the appointment, and I thought that I got it. But there was an issue, a sticking point that we did not agree on. And I lost it, I think, because of that. Whatever the reason is, do I regret it? Yeah, because I believe that I would have been able to serve this person and their family at a higher level had I been given the opportunity to list the home. That's really why I regret it. And I could have been better, right? It's like, what could I have done? We should all over ourselves. This was just like 2 weeks ago, so it's staying there. At the same time, like Frank said, I'm pivoting, I'm learning from it, and I'm taking and making different decisions moving forward. And it's boosting my performance now because now I even have more drive to work on more listings and work with more seller clients to bring them, to challenge them to live beyond default while they're listing their home and mixing everything together so I can help them out. So yeah, regret can boost performance. Another thing that regret can do is it can deepen meaning. And Kat brought this up about her childhood years. So I'm going to bring up a story about my grandparents. I think about my grandma, and she died at the ripe young age of 107. And she died in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So really glad that she didn't have to be in a senior home during the pandemic. I'm really glad that she lived a full and fulfilling life. And I'm really happy that I was there for her last few years. And actually, I was there for her last breath. Like, I watched her take her last breath and pass into the next dimension as her soul lifted up. Like, what an amazing experience that was for me to actually witness my grandma dying. It made me think a lot. And what it did was I had a little bit of regret that I didn't share more time with her, and that maybe when I was with her, I felt like I was in a hurry a lot and I had to go and sell more stuff I was in a previous career, or maybe my mind somewhere was somewhere else. I wasn't present with her all the time, or a lot of the times when I was with her. And those last few years, they were wonderful. And even those last couple of weeks when she was just laying there sleeping in a coma or whatever it was, going to visit her. But it deepened the meaning that I believe that we were given an opportunity of life, a 1 in a trillion chance. And it made me realize that we owe it back to whoever created us or whatever created us. We owe it back to that them, it, the ether, whatever you believe in. It's like paying rent back every single day. And it really made me realize this, like watching her pass, but not only that, but just regretting that I could have shared more time with her. And why didn't I? Right? I was if onlying is what I was doing. If only I would have shared more time with her. If only I would have visited her more than once every week or two. If only I would have brought a gift randomly and said, oh, it's happy peanut butter day in America or something. Who knows? Making up something. It doesn't matter, but just bringing her the joy. If only I would have done those things, right? So a little bit of sourness there on my part, but I'm going to take a tasty sip of my Spindrift, as you know, because this is my favorite. All right. So we've been talking about regret here. We've been talking about what regret is, why it makes us better. We've been sharing some stories. I know that you all of us that listen and watch this show, we are high performers, we are high achievers. And because of that, we self-reflect and we go deep and we surround ourselves with people that call us out on our BS. I can name 5 of them now. Jimmy and Radka and Stephanie and Nate. I can name so many people that call me out. Yanni, there's a lot of people that call me out on my BS. And Ellen's a good one at that too. So I'm going to say, Alan, thank you for just rocking as always. The point is, let's reframe regret, right? The power of regret, how looking backwards moves us forward. Let's think about some of these things that we regret in life. And recognize that we can learn from it. We could use it as fuel, and also recognize that every single day is a new day. It's a new life. It truly is. We will make one decision today that'll shape the rest of our lives. And are you up for the challenge? Am I up for the challenge? Are we going to embrace the roaring 20s that we're in right now? And are we going to rock out and fully express ourselves? Are we going to come from a place of abundance? Are we going to recognize that we make mistakes and we're going to learn from them? And are we going to stop worrying about what people think about us? Who cares what anybody thinks about us? It's not about the likes and the shares and the comments. It's about what's in here. And it's about giving to the world. It's about showing up and being our best. And I know that we're all going to do that this week, and we're going to make that shift. Okay? Thank you so much for listening to episode 81 of Live Beyond Default live stream. It's always interesting at this point because I get excited. I'm like, woo, raise the roof. It's already been a half hour, and I don't know how this time goes by so quick, but we know that it does. And we know that time is finite. So let's remember when we're out there that a lot of times we don't know what people have been through. Think of all the things that we've been through, but there's a lot of other people that we don't know what they've been through. And perhaps it's time today to pick up that phone and instead of scrolling on social media, send a text to 1 or 2 or 3 people that says, I'm thinking of you. Just say, I'm thinking of you. And I guarantee you will make their day. Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you, Frank, Jim, Bruce. I so appreciate you showing up on the show. I really, really just get so much joy from going back and forth with you all live and the comments that I get from people when they watch the replay. Share, like, pass it along. If there's something you don't like, hit me up too. I'm always looking to improve. And until next time, make it a great day. I love you all, and I so appreciate you. Thank you.